With the first pick in the 2021 CFL Draft, the Hamilton Tiger Cats select Jake Burt, a tight end, Boston College.
Hey, Ticats fans, big day, big news, of course, you just saw on TSN, the Hamilton Ticats with the first overall pick in the 2021 draft have selected Jake Burt out of Boston College. There he is on your screen. Jake, congratulations. Welcome to the Hamilton Tiger Cats.
Thank you so much. This is just such a surreal moment for me and my entire family. I'm just extremely, grateful for this opportunity, and I can't wait to get there, get to work, and there's some big things coming down the road here.
It's well said. Now, tell us a little bit about yourself, because you grew up kind of in New England, in Boston, but born in Regina, Saskatchewan. I know Grandma still lives there. So first of all, how's she going to feel? Is she a Riders fan? How is she going to feel about her little grandson in the black and gold?
She's going to have to get used to it. It's going to be, get on board or get used to losing is what I'm going to tell her. But yeah, she bleeds green, but she'll support me. She's just so happy, just like the rest of my family who lives in Canada, just so thrilled that I'm coming home. I'm coming to play for the country they're all living in. It's extremely excited for all of us. We're all tuned in, and I just can't wait to get started here, get this season rolling, and start playing some football.
League, you look at other sports like baseball, basketball, have affiliations with the major league like the NHL, MLB. What are some goals for you in the future with this?
So obviously it's no mystery that an official relationship with the National Football League at some point would definitely bode well for us long term. And we've got bigger plans behind the scenes right now with Fox that we'll be announcing in the coming weeks in terms of 2022 and beyond. So a lot of exciting things on the horizon for the Spring League and bigger projects in store with Fox.
What is up, my friends, and welcome to another edition of the XFL Week in Review. I'm your host, Mark Perry, editor of XFL News Hub. We just heard the number one pick in the CFL Draft. Your Hamilton Tiger Cats selected Jake Burt. We'll get a full recap of the CFL Draft. Plus, that was TSL CEO Brian Woods talking about the future of the Spring League and Fox going beyond. This is an interesting thing that he talked about, because if the Spring League decides to go ahead, does this mean the Spring League and potentially the XFL would be competing, and that Fox, rather than buying the XFL, decided to do something with the Spring League? Very interesting things. We'll have to see as this unfolds with what's going on with the Spring League, if it's becoming more than just this kind of tryout thing, and they have long-term goals on that. All right, so how do you get in touch with this show? You email podcast@xflnewshub.com with your MP3s, videos, or call 888-430-7692. Remember to like and subscribe to our channel and leave us a review on Apple Podcast. We will read it on the show. That's right, like and subscribe to the channel. Before we get into anything, I want to thank our official sponsor of XFL News Hub Week in Review, and that is Manscaped. So support for XFL Week in Review is brought to you by Manscaped, who is the best in men's below-the-waist grooming, champions of the world. Manscaped offers precision engineering tools for your family jewels, my friends. Manscaped just launched their 4th generation trimmer, the Lawnmower 4.0. You heard that right, the 4.0. Join over 2 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped with this exclusive offer for you. You get 20% off and free worldwide shipping if you use the code XFLNewsHub at manscaped.com. And let me tell you something, friends. I've used Manscaped before they were even approached us about being a sponsor here. I love the product. I'm super excited to. I have no problem with this sponsorship because I use it all the time. And listen, guys, it's summertime. We know that you got this kind of woolly mammoth thing going on. It's time to shave it up. This isn't the 80s anymore. Being a big old woolly mammoth doesn't work. Get your Manscaped now. Remember, you get 20% off, free shipping, and all you got to do is use the code XFLNewsHub at manscaped.com to get your 20% off. That's 20% off with free shipping at manscaped.com. Use the code XFLNewsHub. Unlock your confidence and always use the right tools for the job with manscaped.com. So we appreciate them joining us on XFL News Hub as our official sponsor. So yeah, definitely check them out. I've been using Manscaped for probably almost a year now. I heard about it on another podcast, tried it out. I'm all trimmed up. I'm feeling good. It's the summertime. You got to check that out too. So we appreciate them. On to our little, so now back to, instead of talking about your junk, let's get back to, let's talk about our live stream. Speaking of junk. So we did the live stream on the CFL Draft, just kind of winging it, testing things out. Got a huge response. I mean, tons of viewers, and it pains me because the feed was so crappy. Why did that happen? I tried everything. I mean, I spent hours trying to get this thing working, and you know the time is coming, and you have to go live, and so I could not get it going. And it turns out you can blame Dogecoin for it, because next to my computer here, I also have another computer that was connected to the network that was running it wasn't mining Dogecoin, but the wallet was on it. And so the wallet was just sucking up bandwidth in the house, and it was right next to the computer that was trying to stream. I want to thank Reed XFL or Markcast. He pointed out, maybe it was my connection. I'm like, dude, I pay a lot of money for this connection. Like, it makes no sense. I ran a test and it was really slow, and I'm like, what the heck? And then I'm like, this computer was running next to me. So that's what caused the issue there. But I appreciate everybody checking in. And speaking of live streams, I think I want to go back live again. I pretty much do this show live anyway. I don't really edit much. I got a lot of things to do. I wish I had the time to do it, to be more precise. But I'm thinking about we go live next week. So what do you think about the time 7 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Eastern, 9 p.m. Eastern? Leave a comment on the YouTube channel or on our page, or shoot me a message on email or social media, wherever you want. But we're thinking about going back, doing it live on Mondays, 7 p.m., 8 p.m., 9 p.m. I'm just trying to gauge what you guys think would be work for you so that you can participate, because I think it's a lot of fun being able to do the show, talk a bunch of trash, and then being able to interact with you guys in real time. I think would be a lot of fun to do, even though there's not a lot going on. But I tell you what, the Spring League stuff blew up our website, and we got a ton of traffic off of that. We have full recaps of all the rosters, and so that was really great for us following the Spring League. So we're all in the Spring League. I am working on getting the rosters updated and put on our site, so every single player will have their own page, as well as their stats. Yes, their stats. I'm working on those two things. I hope to have that wrapped up by the end of the week. Definitely have rosters on there. We also have all of our writers who took a team. They did a whole recap of the players that are on the team. Really thorough stuff if you want to learn about these guys playing in the Spring League. And the games are good. I mean, I was in and out watching the games, and I think it was a lot of fun. Now, speaking of, before we get into a recap of the CFL Draft and a recap of the Spring League games, I wanted to just do a couple of news and notes for you first. First up, we are XFL News Hub, but we want to know about the XFL players playing in the Spring League. So our own Mike Mitchell did a great article recapping all the different players in the Spring League to just give you an idea. As even far as the coaches go, you got Kevin Gilbride from the New York Guardians. Generals got Bart Andurus, who was the Team 9 coach. The Alphas got Peter Voss was Team 9. The Blues, Ted Cottrell was the Roughnecks D coordinator. Sea Lions, Larry Kirksey was the wide receivers coach for the Dragons. The linemen, Hal Mummy, Dallas Renegades offensive coordinator. And the Conquerors got Jerry Glanville, the Tampa Bay Vipers defensive coordinator. In all, at press time, there was over 30 former XFL players on NFL rosters and over 80 of them on CFL rosters. So a lot of them are out there, but now we also have guys that are on the Spring League. Guys like Luis Perez, quarterback, Guardians. Brandon Silvers of the Conquerors. Sea Lions had Nick Fitzgerald. Alphas had Vad Lee. DC Defenders, Generals had Devontae Kincaid. He was on Team 9. Running backs, Sea Lions, Matt Jones. The Battlehawks, Jousters, Levon Coleman. Dragons, Generals had Darnell Holland. Wide receivers, Reese Horn with the Vipers. Alphas, Jerwill Davis on the Vipers. And Tyler Palka of the Defenders, along with offensive linemen, linebackers, defensive backs, punter. Mike Mitchell's got a full list of all these players and coaches. Head over to XFL News Hub to see all the full players there. Speaking of TSL players, one guy that we were all super excited to see in the XFL was Eric Dungey, the former Orangeman, Syracuse Orangeman. However, he was all signed up to be part of the Blues, I believe it was, but instead he got an invitation to the Cincinnati Bengals minicamp. So he is out and not playing in the TSL. No word yet if he's going to be coming back or what, but we're exciting. That was one of the bigger guys I wanted to see. I'm excited that Luis Perez is back and being able to watch him again, but also I wanted to watch Eric Dungey and some of these other guys. So it's pretty cool. What's the future of the Spring League? We'll have to find out. Could we get another competitive league? I mean, if the XFL is not playing this year and the Spring League and Fox are having a good time, Mike Mitchell's trying to lock down all the ratings. I can tell you that they didn't finish in the top 150 shows on Thursday night when they kicked off. But who knows about Friday and Saturday. So that also in 2022, there's going to be no XFL season. So what's going to happen there? And it'd be interesting if they play in the spring and in the fall too, watching these games. But again, there's no betting. There's no fantasy. Maybe we could do it. So it'll be interesting to see what's going on there. So that's the Spring League stuff. Now for some XFL news, because I know that you guys want to know about that. Dave Naylor had on TSN had something that was just a little bit of interest. He basically was saying that, of course, what we've been reporting, and Mike Mitchell reported, the XFL, CFL wouldn't start until 2023. You guys are all perfectly aware of that. Mike Mitchell went in depth about talking about that. Also, he did say that there were several committees between the XFL and CFL officials talking about different parts of the partnership. I thought that was interesting. And we had heard that The Rock, for example, was maybe involved with some rules committee, but and some other committees. So they're definitely organized and going forward. My one issue with the whole committees thing is that there's not many people in the XFL, at least that we know of. I mean, there is no CFO. There is no, rules people. We don't know if the XFL has hired people or not. And like we've spoken to on this show before, we really think the XFL will kick in the hiring in February. But still, even though the Spring League and Fox have their thing, the XFL has Dwayne Johnson, Redbird Capital, and their rules and their brand and potentially some kind of partnership with the CFL. Maybe I want to even wonder if the reason why there's no way. I don't know. Maybe one of the reasons why the XFL went to the CFL was because they had heard something that was going on with Fox in the Spring League, but who knows there. And Fox we're not really sure the interest of how much money they give them or how the TV deal works. We have no clue about any of that stuff. So something to keep in mind going forward. Now, speaking of The Rock, again, we're just doing these little things here and there. In his new Under Armour ad, if you didn't see that, The Rock was holding the XFL weight belt. Now, there is no doubt in my mind that was absolutely 100 placed there. I mean, it was like a slow, check it out. These are the type of things that you're going to get as far as messaging goes. These guys know what they're doing. Now, he's got a new line of gear called, under the Project Rock collection, called Iron Paradise Tour. This means I'm going to have to get some Iron Paradise stuff. I guess I should probably go order some, maybe have an unboxing or something like that. So we're going to have to buy that too. We got the Zoa energy drink. We got the XFL hats that we're going to have to get the Iron Paradise stuff. I'm actually probably going to take my kids to Cava tomorrow. We were talking about places to eat. They also own a stake in that as well. Danny Garcia launched her own women's collection, GSTQ. There was no weight belt XFL merch in that. But I thought this was kind of interesting, and 3 Down Nation put out that the average audience checked in for the CFL draft was 57,000 viewers, down 22% from 2020, clearly because, I mean, they didn't have a season, which registered 73,000. There was a total of 428 unique Canadians who tuned in to, and at one point or another in the 2020 edition, which was the highest TV audience for CFL draft on TSN since 2014, which is great. But then, all these people that are all like, oh, The Rock, like, who cares? Like, he doesn't do anything, blah, 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 the typical haters. At the time when I wrote this article, which was a while ago, his Under Armour clip that was seen 120,000 times on Twitter and 1.755 million times on Instagram. That's the kind of reach and brand this guy has. And that's why the XFL and CFL are talking. The CFL needs to reach a new audience, and Dwayne Johnson can deliver with enthusiasm for the XFL and CFL. Also, the season finale of Young Rock was watched by 2.36 million people on NBC. And there is a spoiler, cover your ears. There is a reference to the Canadian Football League in it, as I believe it's like, I haven't watched it, to basically tie into next year. Do you think that was done on purpose? To me, absolutely. Absolutely. Because what better way to have another season of Young Rock, assuming that it hits in the fall, with the CFL season coming to a close, and potentially some big, now I don't know, maybe the Young Rock will be in the spring. Maybe, I don't know, I would assume because it launched now, whether it's in the fall or spring, who knows. But that whole thing where you have American audiences focusing on the CFL, learning about the CFL through this TV show, then all of a sudden there is this XFL part of it too. And who knows? I mean, this is Young Rock, and I mean, they're not going to mention anything about him in the XFL, you would assume. I mean, who knows if there's an XFL mention in there whatsoever. But it's just an interesting thing. And remember, all this stuff, my friends, there's no coincidence here. There's no coincidence. Finn is trying to get on the show, and he's scratching at me right now. And I told him he can't be on the show for a while. On to some other XFL news and notes. Jordan Ta'amu got cut again by the Kansas City Chiefs. Now, one of the things that he could be back, you never know. But this is the story. This is the life of these guys in pro football. They get cut, they get picked up, they get cut by another team, just trying to make pro ball and trying to have some staying power in these leagues. And this is why the CFL, XFL, and the Spring League are important. I would never root against the Spring League. I would never root against the CFL. I don't care what the rules are. I would never root against the XFL because I really want these guys to get an opportunity is a great thing. And there should be more than just college football and NFL. Other guys that got cut. Cowboys cut cornerback Savon Smith and defensive tackle Walter Palmore of the Roughnecks. However, not too long after that, Seattle Seahawks signed Savion Smith. Now, he played a couple games last year and did pretty well towards the end of the season. So we'll see if he has a chance to stick on with the Seattle Seahawks. And finally, the New York Guardians long snapper Scott Daly, he signed with the Detroit Lions. But again, he's going to have a long shot as there's other people involved in that long snapper gig with the Detroit Lions. So maybe he can make a spot or get a spot as well. That's it for the news and notes for this. We'll take a little, basically, let's just get right into it. Let's get into the recap of the CFL draft, and we'll get into a recap of this week's Spring League highlights. Now, without further ado, let's get into the week that was not the NFL. 6 rounds and 54 players taken in the 2021 CFL Canadian Football League draft. This is now complete. With the first selection, the Hamilton Tiger Cats selected Jake Burt from Boston College. He becomes the 9th player taken from Boston College in the CFL draft and the first to be selected in the first round. This is the first time since 1977 that 6 defensive players were taken in the first round. Also, Daniel Joseph is the first ever player picked from NC State all-time by any CFL club. Nick Cross is also the second UBC first-round pick in the last 4 years. So you have at Hamilton Tiger Cats at 1 took Jake Burt, tight end out of Boston College. Saskatchewan took Nelson Lacombo, defensive back from Saskatchewan. Winnipeg took Liam Dobson, offensive lineman from Maine. BC Lions took Daniel Joseph, who a lot of people picked would be the first overall pick. He's from North Carolina State. Edmonton took Cole Nelson, defensive end, Alberta. Ottawa took Deshaun Stevens, a linebacker from Maine. Toronto took Peter Nicastro, offensive lineman from Calgary. Calgary took Eamon Agbongdembia, from linebacker from Oklahoma State. And Hamilton, in a trade from last year, I believe, took Nick Cross, linebacker from UBC. We have the full list of people drafted on CFL News Hub. You can search the list, and it's got all 6 rounds. If you want to see by position, team, college, etc., you can go on there. Now let's take a look at some of the notable players taken in this draft. So the season's CFL Draft took place on Tuesday night. History was made as the number 1 pick, of course, was Hamilton Tiger Cats selecting Jake Burt, making him the second tight end ever to be picked first in the CFL Draft. The night also belonged to offensive and defensive lines, as 18 total were selected in the CFL Draft. Star Oklahoma State running back Chuba Hubbard was selected in a professional football draft for the second time in 1 week after the Calgary Stampeders drafted him in the 5th round. After months of speculation about potential XFL merger and a delay of the start of the season, fans got much needed distraction, with many players' dreams coming true. While some will either play in the NFL or go back to college, others will begin their professional football careers in Canada. Here's some notable names from Tuesday night. Of course, Jake Burt, tight end, Hamilton Tiger Cats, round 1, pick 1. While many draft experts were projecting NC State defensive end Daniel Joseph to be Hamilton's first pick, the Tiger Cats pulled a fast one and took Boston College tight end Jake Burt, number 1. They liked him so much that Burt already signed a 3-year contract with them Tuesday night. Burt became just the second tight end in league history to be drafted number 1 overall, with former Ottawa Rough Riders tight end Gerald Wilcox picked number 1 back in 1989. During his college career at Boston College, Burt recorded 23 catches for 307 yards and 2 touchdowns in 36 career games. He went undrafted in last year's NFL Draft and ended up signing with the New England Patriots. Burt would be on their practice squad for the 2020 NFL season, but he was not re-signed at the end of the season. Tight ends don't get used in the CFL, but Burt proves the skill set that could be used as an H-back and wide receiver. He's faster than most tight ends, as he ran a 4.48 time in the 40-yard dash. Burt's got strong hands and can block when he asks to do it. Hamilton also has added another pass-catching weapon on offense and should see their first pick make an impact immediately. Next up, Daniel Joseph, defensive end, BC Lions, round 1, pick 4. BC Lions boasted their defensive line as they added the NC State defensive end. Regarded as the top defensive lineman in the draft, Joseph is a top-notch pass rusher who has a nose for the quarterback. After a short stint at Penn State, Joseph found his role at NC State, recording 37 tackles and 6.5 sacks during the 2020 season. Many teams were looking to load up on the defensive line, and Joseph has the potential to be one of the top pass rushers in the CFL. Unfortunately for BC, Joseph will be returning to NC State for 1 more season. If he continues to improve his skills, he might become a potential prospect in the NFL. He won't play this season, but as a futures piece to the Lions, Joseph could be an elite pass rusher. Terrell Jana, wide receiver, Saskatchewan Roughriders, round 2, pick 17. Now, Jana was considered to be one of the top receivers in the draft outside of Josh Palmer, who was drafted in the NFL. Jana comes from Virginia, where he is the 12th in school history in receptions and 17th in receiving yards. His junior year in 2019 was his best season, recording 74 receptions and 86 yards and 3 touchdowns. Last season didn't go well for Jana as his numbers went down, 36 catches for 423 and 1 touchdown. Jana won't kill teams with his speed, but he makes for a good possession receiver. He could be a good red zone target for the Rough Riders, who already have a solid receiving core in their roster. While Jana was inconsistent in college, he should make for a solid receiver in the CFL and develop throughout the years. Ben Haldick, linebacker, BC Lions, round 3, pick 22. The Lions nabbed another top-notch defensive player to help him out. Ben Haldick is one of the most athletic linebackers in the CFL Draft. Back in 2019, he recorded 58 tackles, 4 tackles for a loss, 2 sacks, and 1 interception for UBC. While he wasn't ranked in the top 20 of the CFL Spring Scouting Bureau rankings, he was creating quite a buzz with his tape and quick 4.55 40 speed. Haldick brings a lot of talent to the BC defense and will get a chance to play. He should contribute on special teams early in his career and get a chance to play on defense. The Lions appear to be looking at getting younger and faster on defense, which Haldick should be able to prove that. Chuba Hubbard, running back, Calgary Stampeders, round 5, pick 43. Calgary is taking a chance on drafting a running back who won't immediately play for them, but could pay off in the future. Chuba Hubbard ran wild for Oklahoma State in 2019 after running for 2,094 yards and 21 touchdowns. Last season was a bit of rush patch for the running back as he battled through injuries. He finished with just 625 rushing yards and 5 touchdowns. Hard to put him stock on anything last year. The injury issues dropped his stock in the 2021 NFL Draft. He ended up going to the Carolina Panthers in the 4th round of the draft. Hubbard already announced that he will go play in the NFL and pursue his NFL career in Carolina for the time being. Hubbard has good speed and can find the open running lane easily. His vision made him one of the top running backs in the NCAA when he played. As long as he stays healthy, he could be a backup in Carolina. If Hubbard ends up going to the CFL in the future, Calgary has themselves a running back who could be one of the top runners in the league from day one. Other notable players drafted. BC Lions got a steal in the 2nd round, picking Iowa offensive lineman Arlik Jackson, who was the 2nd-ranked player in the 2021 CFL Spring Scouting Bureau rankings. Oklahoma State linebacker Amen Ogbongbinjima of Calgary's first pick, who is an instinctive tackler, would perform well in the CFL. Both players were signed to NFL teams after the draft and will get a crack at making those rosters before potentially playing in the CFL. Winnipeg's first pick, Liam Dobson, will not be joining the Blue Bombers offensive line just yet, as he will play his senior year at college at Texas State before going professional. Another player who was drafted and will most likely be returning to college is defensive back Donai Leonard, going 18th overall to Hamilton. Ball-hawking Leonard will continue playing at Ole Miss for his senior season this fall, and depending on how his 2021 season goes, he might join the Tiger Cats next season. So some of these guys are going to be in the NFL. Some are going back to college. If you're a fan of one of these teams, it'll definitely be fun to watch these guys in college, and hopefully they get the chance to play in the CFL in 2022. Remember to give us a like and subscribe to our channel. I really appreciate that and getting the word out. And remember, we are CFL News Hub, and give us a like and subscribe for more CFL news. We are ready to kick off week 1 of the Spring League season. First up, we have the Alphas versus the Aviators, which was on FS1. Pretty good game here. It was the first time these guys have started hitting the field. We have Vlad Lee, a former part of the DC Defenders for a little bit with the touchdown there. However, the winner of the game was the Alphas 23 and the Aviators 9. Next up, the Conqueror versus the Linemen, and the Linemen became my new favorite team. It was the Aviators, now it's the Linemen. I like because Lyman's quarterback is a former Hokie. Willis, Putnam with the touchdown there. However, the Linemen could not hold on. They lost 20-27 to the Conquerors. Next up, the other expansion team, the Sea Lions versus the Blues. The Sea Lions are one of the new franchises along with the Linemen. Franosius was filling in for, remember, Eric Dungey was supposed to be the Blues quarterback, but Franosius looked really well, had a nice little pass here. They started out early. Blues were up 3-6, but the final score is Sea Lions 12 and Blues 15. Not a huge high-scoring affair. Finally, we got the Generals versus the Jousters. The Generals are your champions from last year, if you really kind of count that. But we got the Generals, a familiar name, Luis Perez, throwing the touchdown pass there. Yes, Luis Perez, your XFL, along with Kevin Gilbride, but they couldn't hold on, and they lost 19-21 to the Generals. Players of the week, Laram Haldick, kicker, 5 field goals, 59-yarder, and tied a single game record with 5 field goals and the game-winning field goal with a 40-yarder, just hitting bombs outdoors there at Rice Stadium in Texas in front of no fans, by the way. There were no fans at those games, just the ones in Indianapolis. And then running back Blake Morgan of the Alphas, 14 carries, 139 yards, and a touchdown, 2 catches for 21, league high, 130. Your standings in division, North Division, Alpha Conquerors are at the top and tied at the top of the division with the Linemen and Aviators taking losses. And in the Southern Division, Blues and Generals 1-1, and the Jousters and Sea Lions are at 0-1.
Here's what you missed on the XFL Markcast. I guess formerly known as the XFL Markcast.
We are the artist formerly known as Prince, and yes, we are the podcast formerly known as the XFL Markcast. We are now the Markcast. What did we say? CFL, XFL, and all football stuff. You wrote a very good tagline for us.
And then, of course, someone's like, well, this is not alternative football. And I'm like, okay, we're separating. I felt like the description was separating the CFL from the XFL and then alternative football. That was the point of what I did and describe it. I'm saying alternative football is not the CFL. We're not, come on. We're being respectful.
We're trying. It's one of those yeah.
I feel like we explain ourselves every week in what our train of thought is, because people just take things out of context, and Reed is the king of context. So put it all together.
We have a lot of tidbits in the show later. We have great draft coverage coming up with Connor O'Neill from the CF Perspective podcast. Derek Taylor is coming on from the Cage, Sports Cage, and I have a lot of tidbits later in the show, XFL stuff, mergery stuff, we got some Redbirdy stuff. So if you like all the work, even our listeners, Max and others that are helping me to put together this best show, please subscribe. You can go to themarkcast.com/review. All the links still work, all the XFL show links still work, but you can go to themarkcast.com. But please subscribe. If you like all this, we tons of work today, and we're going to have you CFL draft coverage. We're going to have you all the different stuff going on. So
everybody could do more, but one of the big ones for me is this comes with a price attached to it. And to think about that now, outreach and growing the game for the very base roots and supporting football, it's going to be expensive.
The funny thing before I get into Jake Barrett, the funny thing with the CFL draft, it's a lot of the time teams are drafting for futures. And more so than ever this year, too, because we didn't get a CFL season.
Of course, you can find XFL Markcast on XFL News Hub and wherever you get podcasts, including YouTube.
All right, we are back. And now let's get into some of our social media stuff. Always fun there, huh? First up, talking about Eric Dungey, Javier, wish him luck in the NFL. Totally agree with you there. On our news about the CFL, potential expansion that our man Matt Nagashima wrote about, and talking about the CFL collaboration, what it might look like. Scott says, I agree with Oakland, San Diego, and Birmingham because they don't have NFL teams already. And I disagree with Philadelphia and Denver because they are NFL markets. I would add Portland, Milwaukee, Omaha, Oklahoma City, and Orlando as well, and relocate most of the current XFL cities to these cities that don't have NFL teams. Disagree with that. Those teams, the XFL teams, aren't going anywhere. Why would you move? Big markets have lots of people. That's the thing. James, San Antonio, Fargo, Syracuse and Omaha would also throw their hats in the ring. Okay, with there. Oh, our friend Tom from Canada. You should have stopped writing at the first comma. No, quote, no solid news, ... close quote. Don't bother typing anymore when you know that anything you try to add to it is just imaginative bleep. Stop pretending that the XFL has anything to offer the CFL. Stop pretending that the CFL is willing to rewrite their whole rulebook to gain the partnership of a twice bankrupt / folded league that isn't operating anymore. Thanks, Tom, for checking in. On the Spring League Week 1 Jousters Generals games highlights and recaps, Michael said, this is a beautiful article. I wasn't able to watch the game, but I feel like I did love it. Talking about our man Mike Mitchell. Made his day. Thank you so much. Michael made Mike Mitchell's day. Jared, game was decent. Jousters have QB issues. They got Luis. What are you talking about? Scott says, good game. I missed a lot of that game. That was the one I wanted to watch the most. On Dave Naylor and his talking about wouldn't start till 2023 in the committee meetings. Tom says fans don't want to wait that long. Ditch the partnership or else the XFL, that's going to disappear. I mean, I agree. That is a good point. I mean, we can't wait forever to kick this thing off and get things going. Hopefully they have a long-term strategy, kind of like the Marvel Universe, where they map it out for 7 years. Like, okay, we're going to do this first, this. Maybe they have the Marvel Universe mapped out type action going on with the XFL. Enrico says, if they wait another year, it's done. I mean, these are all valid points. Totally agree with you there. On the Twitter about Battlehawks Jordan Ta'amu getting cut, NW Techie 53 says, Ta'amu when the Jets give him a call. On the Spring League Lions, their roster breakdown, Deshaun Static _ says, as of now, we should invest our time and energy into the Spring League, ? With an XFL's status being up in the air and all. Yes, totally. I would get involved. Somebody got mad somewhere. Maybe I'm going to read it later. They're like, where is the teams located? I'm like, oh, man, that has nothing to do with that right now. They're in a bubble right now. Maybe that's one of the big announcements that Brian Woods is talking about, is that they're actually going to be in cities. But that's a lot of money. That's travel. Definitely sticking with the bubble thing is their best bet. I mean, but who knows what their long-term plans are. You can listen to Brian Woods on Markcast. He goes into a lot of detail with this kind of stuff. Paul Howard _MIMIT. So I was on the Third Down Gamble podcast, and we tweeted that out on our social media. So check it out, Third Down. I dropped a bunch of facts and this, that, and the other thing. I was on a couple shows and podcasts this past week. I posted about them on social media. One of the things I brought up is, could you imagine the bidding war for players with the XFL and CFL and not a lot of money going at it? So basically what I was saying was, one of the reasons why I think they're talking to is because they essentially would be going after the same pool of players. And if neither one of them has a lot of money, that could really hurt both leagues. So part of me thinks the reason why they're talking is because of this potential, how they're going to share players and how's that going to work? Because you don't want to have them start bidding against each other because neither one of them has the NFL type money. And that always leads to bad things. But Paul, from where, said the following. Give it a rest. Now, I don't know. We have rednecks here, and I don't even know what a Canadian, and I don't even know if this guy, what his deal is. He's just a homer person. I don't know what voice I should do, so we're going to go with redneck on this one. Y'all give it a rest. My CFL is for Canadians. With my little flag. P.S. I just watched 25 best Grey Cups ever. 3, not 2, not 1. 3 thumbs up. XFL. 3 games. There you have it. Paul Howard _IMIT. And I don't know what I'm going to have to work on my impressions, Canadian impressions, a boot. That's all I can really do. But there you go, Paul. Checking in. Appreciate the email, Paul. On to our, so to cut down on the tons and tons of response that we get on the YouTubes, we're just going to focus it down on last week's show and just kind of go through some people's stuff. Elizabeth says, I don't agree with Ron's email regarding the Vipers being in the Central Division. It's tough because there are quite a few Eastern teams. However, I wouldn't want a team in Florida to suffer with all that extra travel. That's a good point. Let's see here. Paladin Demo. I'll be surprised if Edmonton follows through. The curse of generic brand names is hard to lift. Ask Washington. Interesting. Elizabeth also says, Mark mentioned 7 p.m. start for his draft coverage, but failed to mention time zone. He has fans all over the world, so it might be confusing. Absolutely. I totally screwed that one up. You're right. So what we might do with this new live thing, and again, now that we're all over the world, worldwide, I want to know what time works best for you. It doesn't, I mean, the later, there's positives and negatives to all of it, but I really want to be able to do it live because I really want to interact with everybody live. I think it's just going to be a lot of fun and really make the show different and unique, and I think that would be fun. Paladin also says something. There are several leagues that were spring leagues or fall leagues that never merged. WFL, USFL, UFL, AAF. None of these teams merged. AFL was the only successful merger. That was after legal battles. Darren says CFL News Hub sounds thumbs up and fun too. Yes, CFL News Hub. Again, we are growing quickly. We are not ramped up to full capacity by any means as far as content goes and in-depthness of content. That's going to come as time moves on. We just started like a week ago, but that's all coming, so don't worry about that. I'm excited about that. I'm going to be pissed if there's no CFL season because I'm going to be like, man, really? Really? Chris says they should play the first half of the season games in warmer south, second half in the north. Yeah, they could do that. I mean, that's the other thing that could potentially help the CFL teams if they do whatever they're going to plan on doing is, having some of these games in the U.S. will allow them to then play later games in Canada. I don't know. He also says, I don't know why all these crazy Canadian crazy football league rules. Oh, no. Let's see. What else? Frozen Delta Records. Personally, I wish the CFL continued as it has. It's my favorite pro football league. And Game have said that. I do believe some sorts of merger is happening. Other than what TSN's Dave Naylor puts out, everything else is speculation. Speculating is fun, so it's all good. Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, what else are you going to do? Everybody's speculating, and I think we're at the point now where we've kind of run this speculation thing into the ground. There's really nothing else, and it's going to be quiet time in the CFL until maybe at the end of the month, and then you get into June and maybe some announcements. Again, I don't see the XFL making any kind of announcements anytime soon. And neither of the CFL. I mean, you want your rules and your rouge and your roster caps or whatever else is going on. That ain't going to happen anytime soon. Tyrone says, how do you feel about the Spring League 2 teams, Sea Lions and Linemen? Again, I'm Lineman guy. I wish they sold the merch. I want some merch, don't you? I would take a lineman. And this is the funny thing about the Spring League that's different for me, especially if they have a lot of rotating players and there's not really tied to a city. I mean, last year was the Aviators. Now it's the Linemen just because they have a Hokies quarterback. So whoever else is, next year it could be a different team. Like, who knows, which kind of makes it kind of fun. Scott says the name Elks also has some history in Edmonton from the 1920s. Mike says they used to be the Edmonton Elk. I think they should go back to it. They didn't need to change the color or scheme or anything. That's cool. Ken Ryu. Honestly, how stupid could TSN and CFL be if a man in the States wants to watch their draft and can't? No wonder CFL needs XFL. Yeah, I mean, I understand. some of these broadcast stuff really just kind of boggles my mind, because I'm like it's so hard. Like, if I'm in the United States, make it easy for me to sign up for TSN. Like, don't you want my money? TSN, do you not want my money? I will give it to you. Let me sign up. I can't sign up for TSN in the United States because I can't pay for it, because the credit card doesn't work because I don't have a Canadian address. Just do PayPal, Dogecoin. Like, I don't understand why these guys do that. Well, you don't understand. It's this partnership, and we have agreements and stuff. You need eyeballs. And you know what I mean? And these guys, it's like this old model or something. Like, they're just stuck in this old model. If I'm talking to TSN, I'm like, listen, guys, do you want the money or not? Why don't we just open this up for everybody to pay for it? Why can't people from the United States pay for TSN? Anybody got a problem with it? Anybody want extra money? Raise your hand if you don't want extra money. Lawyers, put your hands down. No one cares what you have to think. Okay, good. Let's take it. I mean, I don't understand. I don't understand. Again, and same thing with the Spring League. Is it that hard to open up a merch shop? I mean, you're gonna get paid. Just stick your logo on a Teespring, and your logo on other shirts, and then start with that. You don't have to buy thousands of dollars of merch. Just do something like that to start. I mean, you know what I mean? It makes no. I don't know, man. Sometimes I'm like, really? Makes no sense. All right. We got this very thorough email. Somebody posted to our show last week on the website, and I thought I would read it. It's from McCollum. It says, love the podcast and news, but your information about the stability and worth of MLB franchises is very prejudicial. Okay, I'm fine with that. Factoring in all 30 clubs, the average MLB franchise is now said to be worth $2.2 billion in 2021. Collectively, they are worth $66 billion. The least valuable of MLB's, and he's got links to everything. The least value of MLB teams are the Miami Marlins, who are estimated to be worth $1.12 billion. The Yankees are worth the most at $6.7 billion. Again, I don't understand how they are worth that much. But okay. This is the evaluations, and I get that part, but I still don't understand. He's got a link to the national TV rights revenue for the league still going up. And there, the league still does well with local broadcast revenue, with 6 teams getting 9 figures and over half getting $50 million per season. I mean, I understand they get the local revenue too, and there's so much content. But again, the cable business is going away, and these cable companies are hemorrhaging subscribers. So why are these guys getting paid more? Are their ratings like that good? But I get it. Not to mention the revenue they get from MLB TV. God, you think CFL TV would be a good idea, which I subscribe now. My 7th season is doing better and better. During the 18-day period from opening day through April 13th, fans watched more than 1.34 billion minutes of live games on MLB TV, a 12% increase compared to the first 18 days of last year, and a 43% when compared to the same time period in the 2019 season. In addition, total games watched on the league's out-of-market streaming platforms are up 22% compared to last year and 35% compared to 2019. So there you go. Keep up the great work, but there is no reason to bash MLB like those you make fun of that trash the XFL. Nah, I mean, these are all valid points. I'm right. I'm with you. I think you forgot to mention that the Toronto Blue Jays are the suckiest of all the Major League Baseball franchises. I just wanted to. You didn't put that in there anywhere, you know. Aside from that, but I mean, I get the numbers, and the numbers they don't lie. I get that part. Me as like a business owner, I'm a little questioning: are they really that valuable? But you're saying, I mean, the eyeballs are there. I mean, the data is there. The increase in viewership, that's all fine and dandy. So I mean, yeah. But MLB is doing good. A lot of these sports leagues, though, need to be concerned about the younger demographic. I know some people that watch baseball, and that's because like their dads watched baseball, that kind of thing. I've watched wrestling and football, and my kids could care less. And I mean, they did watch. We used to watch wrestling pay-per-views together, and then they get older and whatever. But I asked their friends all the time, especially in that high school era, and I'm like, "Do you guys watch?" Like, they're like, maybe they watch some NFL, but I mean, I was like super into it, cards, everything when I was a kid growing up, and now I just don't see it. I just don't see it with that younger audience. But hey, numbers don't lie. I just don't. Personally, I look at the stands and I'm like, there's nobody there. But I mean, this is before the pandemic, so that's good, thorough stuff. I'm not afraid to, say I'm wrong about anything, but that's good. GP checking in. I know that you are ex-CFL News media person, but any thoughts on why the Spring League is not selling tickets for Houston? I sent the league a message and got the reply back. Unfortunately, we're not selling tickets to our Houston games. That was it. They are selling tickets for games in Indianapolis, not Houston. Clearly, this is all, I'm sure it's local regulations. There's a lot more. Believe me, if they were able to sell tickets to these events, and it's funny because it's an outdoor stadium. Who knows it's on a college, Rice University, their piece. Maybe they couldn't have come on to agreement of who's going to get what. Who knows? But yeah, it would be nice that if they could have tickets for Houston. Here's another person said, any news on why the Spring League is only selling tickets to the games in Indy and not Houston? Just a lack of news. Hoping to go, get a hold of no tickets. Joe checking in again, same thing. I think it's a local, but I thought Texas was like open, like Texas doesn't care about what going around, and everything is open anyway. So I'm not really sure why. Again, who knows the logistics behind it? But yeah, maybe they will as time goes on. After a week or two, we'll keep you posted. But yeah, as soon as we hear Houston tickets going on there, we'll let you know. On to, let's see what else we got here. Ted checking in. I watched the CFL Draft live on the Hub. Yeah, I know it was terrible. And I felt it was very good broadcast considering it was the first attempt at it. I've done live stuff before, but I was so consumed by the lag issues that was just driving me nuts. And I was kind of not focused. So that's why we're going back at it. And you guys are going to tell me what time works for you because we are a global brand. We are a global brand. I didn't mind except for if it's like 2 o'clock in the morning. I didn't mind the lag issues as much as everyone else did. It was terrible. Perhaps next year it would be a good idea to have the Marcast join the show. It would be like one big super show. Once CFL News Hub has established, you could have the writers come on when a team they follow and make a selection. They would know what the needs of the team were and follow them, et cetera, et cetera. The other thing that could be useful is one guest who is a U.S. college expert and one that follows Canadian university scene. Cheers, Ted. 100% totally right. Again, I wanted to do it because I couldn't watch it, and I figured it'd be fun to at least kick off the tires of doing a live stream again and see how that goes and see what I needed to do and how to improve things. I didn't realize it would be that many people tuning in and checking it out on something that I thought was crap on my part. But yeah, absolutely. As time goes on, and I think that's a great idea. I think, when there's another draft going on or some kind of, big thing, I think we should definitely bring the guys on, whether it's CFL News Hub or XFL News Hub, have them on. Let's do it live and then be able to interact and fans can ask questions. I think it would be a lot of fun. So that's absolutely. That's why I'm starting it now, figuring things out, and then we'll go from there. I got to figure out how to dial in a Zoom call and all this kind of stuff. But I think that's a great idea. And I love to hear your feedback. Let me know what you think about stuff because that gives me ideas and I'm like, hey, this is a good idea. Let's do it. If you want me to do it, I'm all in. Let's do it. Morales says, hope you're doing well. I just wanted to say that I feel that the idea of an XFL-CFL merger wouldn't be a very good idea because it mainly benefits the American audience. Many people from Canada, both fans, players, and officials from the CFL don't want to change to the American rule set. I think it would be better if a partnership where they cross-promoted and allowed players to play in both leagues. make more sense. Remember that the XFL is still relatively small, so a league merger, the XFL, CFL, and LFA down in Mexico isn't realistic at this point. No offense to any American fans who do want a merger. You just can't rush an expansion or anything else. You get the USFL. I don't think there's going to be a full merger. I really don't. I think these got to be separate entities, and I think they're building something where the leagues will be their own things with some crossover, and I think that's it. And I think it would benefit. The reason why the CFL is talking to the XFL is because the CFL needs help. I mean, we've heard every 10 years it's close to bankruptcy. They're asking government for money. I mean, the NHL didn't ask for money. This is the only Canadian sports league that doesn't have a tie-in to the American base money. So the fact that they've lasted this long is an accomplishment. Paul had mentioned that every 3 years there's a new commissioner. Somebody was on Rod Peterson's show and saying that some of the franchises were worth $1, that they lose money. And so maybe some of these homers out there that love their league so much, why don't you go buy a franchise if it's only worth $1? And you try to run it. And then, you know what I mean? It's like, oh, you can't do these things, it's tradition, da, da, da. Yeah, you get behind the wheel and you try to steer the ship with your money. And you tell me, you know what I mean? Like, come on, get real. Get out of here with that noise. All right, well, that's it for that part of the show. Thanks for everybody for checking in. Remember to give us a like and subscribe to this channel as well as our CFL channel. You must do that or you get in trouble. Email podcast@XFL News Hub with your MP3s, all that good stuff. And leave us a review on Apple Podcasts. We'll read it on the show. And remember, get 20% off at Manscaped plus free shipping with the promo code XFL News Hub at manscaped.com. Get your Manscaped on, my friends. We want to thank them for sponsoring the podcast as well. Remember, we got our iPhone and Android app. Next week, the question of the week, I want to know what time on Mondays do you want this show? 7, 8, 9. You tell me. It would just make things easier. We could get it out quicker. But we got some cool stuff working on behind the scenes. We're working on the Spring League rosters and stats. Working on bringing on some new people to work with us on the video side of things, as well as content creation. So we're growing, and things are rocking and rolling. So we're just going to keep doing our thing. That's it, and I'm pretty excited about that because it's fun. Because remember, at the end of the day, this is fun. So that's it for me, folks. Thanks for being part of the show. Remember, join us on the Discord. It's xflnewshub.com/xfl-podcast. You can listen to this anywhere. If you haven't figured it out, then that's your deal. And that's it for me, folks. Thanks for listening. Mahalo. Remember, message me. What time do you want to do this live on Mondays? God bless. And I will see you all later.